Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and today we have a video that Creative Assembly by now should have hopefully released unless something has gone wrong, which is going to focus around patches and not only that, a little bit of the Slaanesh side for the next DLC. That's right, Slaanesh has been confirmed, finally. You guys know me well enough that I've been waiting for Slaanesh DLC for a while, and we're going to do the usual here. We're going to watch along, stop at anything that might be very important to talk about, and timestamps will be linked in the description below, just in case you're looking for any specific parts. I know YouTube does show the chapters sometimes on the video, but sometimes they don't. So yeah, let's begin.
Hi everyone, I'm Steve Coleman, Senior Community Manager on Total War, and once again I am joined by some of our wonderful Warhammer 3 dev team to talk a little bit about patches, betas, and a little bit more. I am joined by Will, and I am also joined, through the magic of magic, Vasil and Radoslav from our Sofia studio in Bulgaria. So let's do a quick introductions. Will, let's start with you. If you just tell us who you are, what you do, and some things you've worked on.
Righto. I'm William Hockstad, and I'm a Warhammer 3 DLC designer. I worked at the company for 5-6 years roughly, working on mostly mainline DLC for Warhammer 3. Recently, my focus has been primarily on our patching efforts, the interim content, the .x patches, 5.3, 5.2, 6.1, which is hopefully in your hands by now, and making those extra bits of content to tide you over while you wait for our more major releases.
Awesome, thank you, Will. And now I'll throw over to Sofia. Vasil, how about you?
Hey, so my name is Vasil, and I've been working as a lead DLC designer over Warhammer DLC projects. And I've been with CA for a while now, for a few years back, and I'm very excited to join the Warhammer team.
Thank you. And Rado, how about you?
Yes, hello. My name is Radoslav. I'm a principal tech designer working on Total War. I've recently joined the DLC team after finishing up with Total War Pharaoh, and now I'm working with various people on both patching efforts and DLC efforts.
Great, thank you guys, and thank you for joining us today. But for now, I'm going to send you back into the ether.
Alright, so 3 devs in total. This is going to be quite interesting because at the end of the day, we're seeing a lot more communication in this form. It's good to see more faces. I think that's quite important. And yeah, more Sofia involvement when it comes to Warhammer. But that was kind of expected, and we're seeing a lot more push to making Warhammer as profitable as possible. I'm assuming whilst CA mainland CA, so CA Horsham, is focusing on whatever the next title that is going to be announced later this year.
So, patch 6.1 has just recently dropped for Warhammer 3, bringing with it some refreshes for Kislev, Tzeentch, and Grand Cathay, as well as some new units, because everybody loves free stuff, and the usual bug fixes and tweaks to the core game that always come with these patches. So what's your approach to these patches at the moment? So how are you figuring out what you're going to do, when you're going to do it, and how you're going to do it?
So right now, kind of the core of our strategy is something new to chew on. A new extra gubbin attached to something that already exists to give you a little bit more to play with. And how we arrive at what to do is primarily something that we figure out through the help of the PX team. That's the player experience team, whose job it is to go through all those conversations everywhere out there and distill that down into something digestible for us in design to read and go, we think we can solve this problem that lots of people are having. Or we see that a lot of people are happy about this thing and want to see more of it, or unhappy about this thing and want to see it improved. And those help inform us in a very qualitative way. Instead of, we can't just always go in our guts. We need some hard data, and PX are the perfect team for providing that to us.
Alright, so this is the new format for the patches, which we've seen recently. I'm a little concerned as to why it took about 3 years to actually get to this point, though. You know, with Warhammer 3's ups and downs, it should have been coming a little bit sooner, but better late than never. 6.1 was very good. If we're going to start seeing 0.1 and 0.2 patches of this more or less size, it should be good overall. A lot of factions do need to get a bit of a fix, which might not necessarily either get a DLC yet or ever at this point, because there's a bunch of factions which are functionally done but just need updates here and there.
Awesome. So the things that have come in the past, and you know, in like 5.1, 5.2, etc., as well as 6.1, Has that all come through from the PX team? Has that all been based on the feedback that they've gathered for you, or do you often find things out in the wild world yourselves?
There's a couple things. We take things to PX as well, because we're all people, and we see things, we read about our own game. I mean, you can't prevent yourself from going on your own forums at some point. And when we see something that really like jumps out to us, we like to sneakily go to PX and go, hey, do you have any more info on this? Because I might have an idea. And some of the things have come from our side of the pond as well on that front. I think, for example, the Deeps was very much a Mitch-led. This was something he was excited about. This was something he really wanted to do. But of course, we funnel it through the appropriate channels anyway. There's a process to everything.
Awesome. Looking forward, now that 6.1 is out there.
So yeah, the usual here. They take a little bit from the community because of the forum posts, Reddit, and so on. Yes, your voices are heard, and they've got their own ideas too. I mean, this is pretty much expected. That's good to hear anyway. I'm really curious about the Deeps, though. I'm assuming maybe the Deeps were in development prior to the release of Thrones, but they just didn't have enough time. It's still one of those things that we'll never find out, but it would be kind of cool to know more or less like when stuff comes into Deception and when they realize, okay, yeah, we're going to have to do it in a patch.
Is there anything you guys have already got planned for 6.2 or anything else that you're looking at for future?
So at the moment, of course, seeing as this is being recorded before the release of 6.1, it's a little bit early to say exactly what we're doing in 6.2. We're still in the ideation phase on that. I can talk some broad strokes, though. Up until this point, we've been thinking a lot about what little extra gubbins can we add for you.
Alright, patch 6.2 is confirmed, essentially. We're going to get another patch. This is pretty curious. Obviously, what this means, obviously, is don't expect the next DLC coming anytime soon, because, yeah, I wouldn't imagine that we're going to see 6.2 until April, May, so, yeah, I could imagine the next DLC being around maybe June, July? Who knows if maybe even a little bit longer. Because there's usually around a month and a half, sometimes even 2 months between patches, and that means we're not going to be expecting everything too quick.
But for 6.2, what we'd like to do is take that focus and bring it down to what core game system can we do some improvements for. And some examples of what we think about when we say that is things like, can we improve the situation around ancillaries for everyone? This was something that we originally wanted to do in 5.3, but we weren't happy enough with the result to put that out there yet. Some other things that are hot topics, especially because this is something that the PX team have been telling us about, is people are talking a lot about control, people are talking a lot about corruption, and that there's a lot of strong opinions on that. And that is something that we are considering right now. I think the way I'm going to frame this is it is too early for us to say exactly how we'll approach it because it's a very volatile space. It's a big core system shared with all the factions in the game. And we have a lot of ideas. We know, for example, that when we moved to Warhammer 3, we changed corruption entirely from the system where it was a percentage division inside the province to having this more tabulated, you have a set specific discrete number that can go to 100. And we did that originally because we had this consistent complaint of people who really don't like it when they can't remove all the corruption in the province. They really like to wipe the slate clean, have no corruption. But now we have a different problem where a little bit of corruption can really snowball to 0 or to 100 very easily. And that's something that's a topic where we're having a lot of discussions on this, whether how do we solve this? Do we want to solve this? And that's why I think it's a bit too early to give specifics, but these are the kinds of topics we're talking about right now. And I don't think we can put anything out there until we're quite happy with it, because it's such a core system. So we're going to have to be really sure about this one.
Okay, so looking towards core features like auxiliaries, yeah, that's something that they spoke about, but then nothing ever actually happened with. And a corruption rework would be fantastic. Yeah, there is, like, no actual use for corruption. Sure, the demons and the vampires get minor benefits, but it doesn't feel like it's as devastating as it kind of should be, considering that at the end of the day, corruption is supposed to be very, very noticeable. And I do agree with the dev there. There is a lot of ways to just kind of remove all corruption down from 100. within maybe 5, 6, 7 turns. I would say a big issue there is that there's a lot of skill points to start ignoring certain types of attrition too, and even items and stuff, which does lead for corruption being kind of useless. I'd love to see more. I imagine that it's going to be one of those weird ones. But yeah, I mean, if they're looking at it, there might be some good ideas at this point in CAHQ. There definitely needs to be more auxiliaries added to the game because we keep getting the same ones over and over, and it's very clear which one is the best and which one is the worst. Same thing with a lot of items too. I'd like to see more of an item rework.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. No, that's a good approach. I don't know where you'll obviously be in your thought process for this, but maybe this will prompt people to give us a bit more feedback on that specific topic, and maybe we'll get some valuable stuff out of it from there. So we'll have to wait and see. People may recognise your name from the 6.1 dev blog that went out just before 6.1. So obviously you did a lot of work on that, including the fantastic unit card placeholders, which was artistic. I can't think of the word, Will, but you know.
It's a crime.
It was artistic crimes?
Crime, I think is the word you're looking for.
Fair enough. I'm very disappointed that they didn't make it into the patch. That aside, are there any kind of highlights from 6.1 or things that you particularly are proud of that you'd want to talk about?
I think, yeah. So when we were concepting a lot of the work for 6.1, there was definitely one feature, I think, above all else, that kind of really got the mental juices flowing. It was when we were talking about how do we do atamans. And atamans, of course, are these provincial governors, and so they're meant to emphasize the power of interior Kislev. And as we went through a lot of different variations on what can an ataman do, we came to this idea of what if an ataman lets you take a settlement, left-click it, and then right-click an enemy army nearby and have the settlement attack the army. And this idea of having a settlement attack an army instead of an army attack a settlement, which is the usual Total War flow, just immediately everyone who was talking about this, eyes up. Like, that's an interesting idea. That's fun. And the moment we knew we had that, we couldn't stop chasing that dream, essentially. And it's a big technical challenge to achieve, but it was simply too interesting for us to let it go once we caught onto that idea.
There's nothing to complain about this when it came to the Ataman changes, and in general, the Kislev rework is absolutely fantastic. I did a live stream, which was pretty much just playing with Katerin. I did a full campaign with Kostaltin in my own time. I'm really, really pleased that Kislev now starts to feel more like a game-free faction, or at least to the expectations that everyone had. It doubles back here to 6.2. I don't imagine 6.2 being as large, but if it's got more or less the same type of effort, I think 6.2 is going to be pretty damn good overall.
But yes, Radoslav here has been heading up the project for this campaign AI beta. We've just finished one of the rounds of the beta and are looking at the feedback at the moment, and we do have another round coming in the near future. So if you missed out on the first one, don't fret. There will be another opportunity to try out some of these changes. So Rado, for those who haven't actually seen much about this campaign AI beta yet, what is this initiative? What's the kind of top level of what you are looking to do here?
So the main goal of the beta this time around is to present the community with our latest efforts in addressing some of the more prevalent feedback around the campaign AI. Most of the changes are centered around the AS passivity, and since the AI is a very fundamental part of the game and it feeds into a lot of different things like game difficulty and so on, we decided to kind of approach it a bit more cautiously, and we decided to go with the beta branch to not suddenly introduce this massive of a change to all users.
So I didn't get to play that much as I would have liked with the beta, but what I did play felt very good, and it's very obvious that some of it has seeped into the live game now with 6.1. Yep, campaign has been always a bit of an issue with campaign AI. It's definitely getting a lot better. It's good to see a commitment to that, because at the end of the day, there needs to be a structured campaign with a lot happening rather than just what was happening before with the AI just kind of becoming dormant. There were certain locations with just multiple armies staying perfectly still. The end of my Oxyotl campaign on stream showed that, where I was trying to go for the last character to kill off, and it was just like 9 to 13 armies huddled up on one settlement, not actually moving. Whereas in the live game now, I'm seeing armies moving a lot more, which is absolutely fantastic. The more that we're seeing actually happening on the campaign map, the more immersive the campaign will feel.
Awesome. Yeah, that's good. A really good way to let the players kind of have their say, I suppose, in this process. Are there any highlights or any particular things within that beta that you want to call out that you're particularly excited about or proud of?
So the highlight change of this beta has to do with the campaign AI's ability to recognize when it's being threatened by foreign forces. We discovered a rather fundamental issue with the way AI just looks at the world, and we found out that one of the rather fundamental assumptions of the AI around when it's being invaded and when hostile forces are present in its territory was just kind of wrong. And the AI was finding itself in situations where it thought it was being assaulted by enemy forces, when in reality, all that was happening was foreign agents were just making incursions into the AI's territory, which caused it to fall into this rather defensive posture, and it started prioritizing, consolidating its forces, making sure all its settlements are garrisoned, and this really robbed it of opportunities to, be aggressive and, do other things in the game. So, resolving this issue has been a real standout for us.
Awesome. Can people expect quite a kind of big difference in how things play out as a result of this beta?
Generally, the overall AI's behavior isn't that different. This tackles a particular set of circumstances where the AI really just completely focuses on defense, but the frequency of this behavior can vary wildly between campaigns. So I expect that in certain playthroughs, players will notice a very big difference, and in other playthroughs, the difference might not be so large.
This is something that we've struggled with a lot in the past when it comes to working with the AI. Is there's such a huge variance in events, depending on what the player is doing, depending on what the hundreds of other factions are doing. And the AI's decision making is very complex and layered. So it's it's difficult to find high-level trends quickly without lots and lots of games being played. And that's one of the great roles of something like the beta, is letting us get lots of information distilled down into a real player experience.
Awesome. That's really good to get that insight into it, really.
So it's really curious on how that just became a thing kind of randomly. Let's be very honest there. The issue kind of presented itself out of nowhere, and it was kind of frustrating. But it's always really interesting to see how maybe something in game design changed, and it wasn't anything to do with heroes, yet made the heroes start becoming the aggressive force in that sense, right? So the AI started thinking, oh my god, we got loads of armies attacking us. Because, yeah, the AI does tend to use a lot of heroes very randomly. I've got a campaign going on right now, which I'm playing as I'm painting up and building up some units for my Bretonnian showcase, hopefully soon. But there are loads of heroes all over the place, and it's just really curious to see it that way.
So for the people at home who may or may not have already been on the last beta and are hoping to get in on the next beta, what can the players do to help support you guys in this initiative?
Frankly, the best way anyone in the community can help us out is just tell us your honest feelings. This is the most important thing for us. We understand that there might be further issues. There are, many different combinations of difficulty levels and legendary logs that you can play. So no feedback is, worth more or less. Just being open and honest with how you feel about the game is the best thing for us, because it really allows us to understand how you feel, understand what really bothers you, what can we improve. That's the biggest focus for us.
Brilliant. Perfect. Thank you. Thanks, Rado, for all that insight into that. So, yep, like we said, there will be another beta starting soon if you did miss out on the first round. So don't fret, just keep an eye out for more information on that in the near future.
I've always been a big fan of beta systems, so I'm glad that it's continuing. I've been a big fan of it ever since World of Warcraft. I've always taken part in the public test realms, even the betas there. So it's good to see this continuing. The more that it's done, the better it works out for everyone. I have to remind everyone, obviously, that, you don't have to take part in them, but people do like to take part in them because it does help shape the game. And let's be honest here, in most cases with Creative Assembly. Apparently screaming works, so yeah, this data is kind of like screaming.
Now let's move on to another topic of discussion, which I'm sure a lot of you are going to be very excited to hear about, which of course is what's next for Total War Warhammer 3 DLC. So just like our previous DLCs that we've put out over the last couple of years, this will be another 3 Lord pack. But we're going to do things a bit differently now. We're not going to bombard you with all of this information, punch you in the face with it straight away with all of that info. So today we're going to reveal the first of the 3 factions, and Vasil's going to help me with that. So Vasil, what can you tell us about what's next for Total War Warhammer 3's DLC?
Actually, I'd be quite interested seeing people guess this online and observe their excitement as much as we're excited to develop it and later on release this DLC. Some guess right, some guess wrong. For the next DLC, we've prepared, as you mentioned, 3 Legendary Lords and also 1 free Legendary Lord. And the first one that we're going to reveal today is Dechala The Denied One.
Just a quick note, we mispronounced Decala's name throughout the rest of our interview, so instead of Dechala, please imagine we are saying Dechala. On with the show.
So, elephant in the room, the name has been changed. This isn't a Creative Assembly thing. She is now known as Dechala rather than Dechala. This has been a recent thing with Games Workshop when it comes to painting tutorials, and that is usually because of maybe Games Workshop being a bit scared with Marvel, because Marvel is as trigger happy as Games Workshop is, but Marvel has a lot more money than Games Workshop, because it's very similar to T'Challa, the Black Panther character.
Okay, so Dechala for Slaanesh. That's our first Legendary Lord for the next DLC. What can you tell us about her? Who is she and how does she play?
Yeah, so she's shrouded in mystery a little bit. She has been marked by Slaanesh, leaving her severely mutated, shedding her previous form. With her being right now a snake-like creature with many arms, and in each one holding a deadly sword, leaving devastation across the battlefield. She's gonna play much in the theme of Slaanesh, of speed and damage and destruction.
Okay, I just want to stop here, mostly because, oh my god, she looks great. So, she had an old miniature that didn't really look like the artwork that you saw before, which was in the old army book. It's more of the case of the miniature was casted long time before the quality that we know from Games Workshop existed. This is awesome. 6 arms, like everything expected. Very, very big snake woman, it seems. I'm looking forward to this. This is wonderful. I'm a big fan of this character in the lore. I'm a very big fan in general of Slaanesh, as you guys are aware. So I am really, really happy to see Dechala, as her name is now properly after about a year or 2, coming into Total War as she's one of my big wishlist characters, right? We've got Nakari, we've got Sigvald, we've got Azazel. This one was next on my list. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Obviously, she's going to look a little bit different when she finally gets in game, right? The animations and stuff start coming into play, but that is absolutely wonderful.
So she's going to be able to quickly get in and out of battle, leaving bodies and devastation behind her. Also able to flank on the battlefield very efficiently, and in that sense, she's going to be a very versatile and deadly warrior.
Alright, so the character has been modeled already. That's fantastic. Look at her. Look at her. She is so incredibly detailed. I love the purple and gold. So, like I said, like if you compare it to the artwork, she looks a little bit less bestial than the artwork when actually brought into game because of the teeth and so on. The golden eyes are a phenomenally good touch. I can't complain. This is what I wanted. This is exactly how I visioned her. She's very long on the left-hand side, though. But, yeah, this is more or less how I envisioned her in a more modern aspect. That is wonderful. Absolutely wonderful.
Interesting stuff. Can you give us a bit of insight into maybe a couple of units that will be coming in her roster? Maybe how they fit into the lore there?
As always, I think I'll keep the most interesting things for myself for now. But I can share a few units of the Slaanesh roster. One of the units, it's called the Champion of Slaanesh. The Champion of Slaanesh looks very much like Dechala. He is a snake-like creature with also many hands, but not as many as she has.
Oh my god, this is a very, very old reference, right? This old model, right? I've got it somewhere. It's I converted it into a BSP. Oh my god. So yeah, Snake Men. Snake Men are here. Well, it's not a Koreshi Snake Men. This is a Slaanesh Snake Men. There was another name that was used for these guys, but it's very inappropriate to say on YouTube. Wow. So he's calling it a unit, which is really strange because, I mean, as far as we're all aware, this a champion of Slaanesh would be a hero. We are missing the hero variant, unless this is turning into its own version of the aspiring champions, I guess. Well, not that, because, you know, there was the Wrathmongers and the Skull Reapers, so maybe there's just something like that. We're going to have to wait and see. I've asked, someone said it was a unit, but I don't know, because sometimes the communication can be super weird, and I'd rather wait and see. That being said, this looks really, really good, and I am very excited because, goddamn, I love when something plays on nostalgia. I have a few of them, actually. One of them is a BSP, but the others, I've got them with the normal kit. It's just really nice to see. It's just nice. I'm a big fan of these old school minis coming to life, like what they did with Tzeentch and so on. So, yeah, more of this, more of this.
The champions of Slaanesh are known to be one of the most fiercest chosen warriors for Slaanesh that deal a lot of damage and destruction, much similar to Dechala, but not in the same scale, of course. They have multiple hands, each hand armed with a weapon, a sword, and they will circle around the battlefield in support and deal a ton of damage wherever they go.
They look fantastic in engine, really, really pretty. Well, I know a lot of people are going to go, that's pretty. It's like, for me, yes, that's phenomenal. It's stunning. I'm a big fan. So a lot of different weapons. You've got the trademark black leather there. Oh my god, this is going to be nice. This is really, really going to be nice. I'm curious to see if this is going to turn into just a basic unit or it's just going to be a hero. They're not very clear, and it can get lost in translation, I guess, when you're talking to other devs from different countries, I guess. I can't wait to see what happens. I must say, it's a surprise, but it's a welcome one. I thought if it's a hero, I thought we were going to get a foot one. If it's a unit, I didn't think we were going to get this style of unit. It's really, really cool. I like a classic. Everyone likes a classic.
So another unit that we're planning to introduce are the Pleasure Seekers.
Sorry, but I had to stop here. Oh my god, finally, boob snakes. I'm really excited about this. I love Storm of Chaos. Oh my god. Pleasure Seekers. It's about freaking time. This is going back to the, oh my god, Juan Diaz miniatures. Oh my god. And the, like, oh my god, you can see, like, it's a heavy claw there for the demonettes. God damn it, finally. They're
a demonic cavalry, which present a demonette on a demonic steed.
And we have to stop again. Interesting, they're shielded. Oh, I'm a little bit concerned, because maybe that means we don't get the mortals in the future. I don't know. I mean, I like it, and the shields are gorgeous, by the way. Oh my god. But I wasn't expecting shielded Pleasure Seekers. Hey, I'm not gonna like start doomsaying and stuff, because obviously we have to wait. This is just going to be a very, very basic intro. They're likely just going to start drip feeding for a while. But yeah, I don't know. I find it very strange. They never had shields back in the day. So, we'll have to wait and see, I guess.
The demonic steed will provide the necessary speed and additional power that the demonettes don't quite have right now.
All right, we're stopping again. I'm sorry. This is going to be constantly happening, I think. So, yeah, no, they have the speed, but they just definitely were missing the power. I think that's a cultist on the top right-hand side. Maybe they're going to be able to mount on them, which would be great, because obviously, you know, demonic mounts and stuff like that, always a big thing. I'm such a fan of the concept here. They remain with the Booba too, just a lot of bras, as you can imagine. But overall, yeah, this is exactly what people, well, myself, this is what I was expecting. I really don't care about what other people are expecting. I'm just a big fan of these mounts. Oh my god, yeah, stunning, absolutely stunning. I love the color style. I love like the little freckles that you can see on the top part. Very snaky, very, very lovely. it's a long time coming, I think, because, you know, rot beasts were a surprise for Nurgle, but everyone else has kind of their specific god-touched mount. This one is a really important god-touched mount. I really hope we get the mortal units, and obviously the mortal characters being able to mount on these, because, oh my god, these are so cool.
So they're going to be incredibly punchy in battle, going into encounters quick, and leaving them as with the same speed, dealing a lot of damage in their wake.
Yeah, the render looks fantastic. Yeah, it's fleshy, but not too fleshy. It's not supposed to be a snake, remember that? There is a lot of certain overtones when it comes to Slaaneshi demons, especially one of the more kind of prime style form of demons. Remember that these steeds themselves are considered to be kind of rare. They're gifted to mortals too, in a very similar vein on how some mortals can get onto skull crushers, for example. Well, onto whatever way you want to spin it when it comes to Slaanesh, right? So yeah, no, this is great. I like the saddle, the styling. I can't wait to see these animated. Oh my god.
And moving into different places efficiently. They're going to be efficient in flanking, they're going to be efficient in charges, they're going to be an all-rounder quick unit for people to enjoy. We're still not quite there with the implementation, as this video is recorded early, but we're expecting to see them in their full glory quite soon.
So the way that Pleasure Seekers were implemented on the tabletop was very heavy cavalry style. In that sense, very similar to that of the Skull Crushers, Rot Knights also. They're supposed to be hitting really, really hard. I imagine that they're going to be very similar here too, because the Rot Knights, which were more of a supplementary thing in the same way as the Pleasure Seekers, are very, very good cavalry to just like slam their way in. At that point, that means that everyone's got a bit of heavy cavalry. The only one that's kind of lacking that would be Tzeentch. They've got the Doom Knights, which are very maneuverable, but they do lack that little punch. The difference is that since they can fly, they can really get into the enemy's flank in the rear without too much of an issue.
So what more can you tell us about Dechal's faction and the kind of associated faction mechanics?
So we've tried to be faithful to what Dechala is and represent her as such in the game. And she is the leader of one of the most fiercest warbands under Slaaneshi's followers. And that's the Tormentors. The Tormentors roam around the world and leave destruction in their wake in their search for excess, in their search for the better life for themselves, and that applies the most to Dechala. She wants the best pleasures and feelings for herself. She wants the best experience for her own life. And for that reason, she uses her powers to dominate the opponents around her and to dominate the enemies that she manages to defeat across the world. These subjugated enemies help the Tormentors and Dechala live their opulent lives that they've used to, and we're going to try to reproduce exactly this in terms of the destruction that she causes, the effects that she applies to settlements around the world, and how she uses her enemies for her own gains and her own benefits.
Okay, so I wanted to leave the whole thing there because I think that that's quite important. I really do hope that that means that we're going to see a bit of a rework to how vassalization works, something that I've been kind of pushing a little bit lately, because, yeah, it does look like you're going to have quite a lot with that. I'm curious to see how the whole thing with settlements is going to work, mostly because I guess your influence is going to be able to spread around a lot. I hope she's not got another teleport mechanic because way too many people are teleporting. The Tormentors makes sense as the faction name. That's something that's been known. That's her faction for a while, and it was heavily that in the end times too. Overall, I mean, it sounds very interesting, but the thing is, words to actual game can differ quite a bit. I'm excited that so far we've seen some really good things when it came to Thrones, for example, and even some stuff in Omens. I have a lot of hopes for this. This is my faction. I just hope it's good.
In regards to Slaanesh as a race, what more are we going to expect to see in the kind of free race rework? Is there anything that's coming in that's going to play into this?
So I'll be honest in this question, and we have to be cautious of how we approach it, as we've discussed many things about Slaanesh. Currently, N'Kari is the only available legendary lord for Slaanesh, and we want to distinct him from the other lords that we're going to add with the DLC. And with that distinction, we're looking into the content of Slaanesh as it exists right now, tailored a bit more towards what N'Kari presents in comparison to, let's say, Dechala. So we're looking into tweaking and modifying things for Slaanesh, like technology trees, skills, and things like that. But beyond this, it's early in development to promise anything, and I don't want to mislead anyone. And for that reason, I'll be more broad and say that we're looking into everything Slaanesh and try to achieve the best result for Dechala, N'Kari, and the mystery legendary lord that we've not yet revealed.
We both know it's the mask. We all know it's the mask. So, yeah. I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, the mask is a character that a lot of people have been waiting for, so that's cool. Yeah, I mean, I agree with this developer regarding, like, keeping quiet if it's still pretty early. The big thing is I don't think Slaanesh needs a lot of fixes, barring, fixing a little bit of the tech. That's definitely one. Skill points, like he mentioned, which is pretty damn cool. It's nice to see that that is being looked at. Again, vassalization and maybe just kind of tweaking the troops a little bit. But other than that, yeah, it feels all right. I mean, I can play a Slaanesh campaign without too much of an issue. Maybe you guys feel a little bit differently. Naturally, there's always stuff that can be improved. I just hope that it's not a fundamental massive change, because like Khorne, I feel like they're in a very good spot, unlike Nurgle, who was pretty screwed. Do the usual stuff like separating the building trees and so on just for the sake of theming. And yeah, there we go. And I'm really hoping that Dechala, I have to get used to this, is focusing more on mortals, kind of like Tamukan did, because that's always more fun.
Talking, of course, about N'Kari and Dechala, both of them have these strong overtones of they defeat their enemies, and then in some way their enemy is then made their puppet or under their control. But what is the key difference between the two approaches, or you're playing N'Kari versus when you're playing Dechala?
That's actually a pretty good question. It's very much on point. They both indeed control their enemies in some form or fashion, although the difference here comes from where N'Kari uses seduction. He uses his demonic influence in order to appeal to his victims. Dechala is a bit more forceful. She dominates her victims with the help of an elixir of sorts, and we are going to represent that in her faction mechanic, as she's going to be using more forceful methods in order to use the people that she manages to enthrall, and rather than N'Kari's softer, I guess, quotes unquote, methods that can be compared with.
Okay, yeah, so they're using the more aggressive tone for Dechala, which makes sense. That's something that she's going around the world right now just causing havoc. That's how it's always been in the lore, because she's trying to prove herself there. I do wonder if we're going to see the rivalry with the other Keeper of Secrets, because obviously she does have a potential master. It's a very weird part of all the Warhammer Fantasy lore, but I do hope that that is represented at least in her quest battle, because if she fails, she basically becomes someone else's toy, let's just say. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what happens with her campaign. There should be subtle differences. The mechanic thing sounds kind of interesting, this whole elixir thing. I wonder how that's going to work. It sounds pretty cool. There's a lot that I've got questions for, and I think that this is the most important part. The fact is, I'm a little bit worried about the knights. I'm a little bit worried about the knights not existing, potentially, in favor of these champions of Slaanesh, because someone from CA said it's a unit, but this person doesn't work in development, so it might have said something wrong. It's just communication can be a bit weird. I just want to see the mortals. I think it would be really, really cool. And I just don't see that happening now, because the Pleasure Seekers have shields. And I want to be able to use more mortals. The idea here is just having a little bit of a change there. and it worked very, very well for Tamilcon. I think that it's very, very important that you get multiple lords with different styling, so you'd start to see more demonettes being used with the mask. If the mask ends up being the third legendary lord, it could literally be anyone else, to be honest. It could literally be anyone else. And then Nekari being more well-rounded, having a little bit of everything. So I'd like to be able to have like a mortal variant there. I do wonder what other units we're going to get, because we haven't really seen anything else. So there's a lot to wait for. It does seem like they're going to drip feed a little bit. They did say it's not going to be as big information as it was before, which does make me think that the DLCs are a little bit far away. I do wonder if this is going to become the regular thing, but I guess time will tell. Yeah, overall, pretty interesting. I'm hyped. What we've seen so far is gorgeous. Obviously, there is a little bit of bias for me because of it being my favourite God of Chaos. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below to start a bit of a discussion. I know this one's going to be a long one. I did do a lot of talking, and I did try to cut out as much of these guys just kind of like repeating the same thing over and over, but it can't be helped. They're trying to get the promotion out and start getting people interested. This is something that is going to be a regular thing. I imagine it happening the same with the next DLC. But yeah. Have a great one, guys. I'll be live later on twitch.tv/thegreatbookofgrudges if you want to have a little bit of a conversation. And, yep, see you very, very soon. Bye.
Nice. Good question. I'm going to have to rein you in a bit. You're going to steal my job. Awesome. Thank you, Vasil, for all that information. So there you have it. The first of your 3 new Legendary Lords coming in the next Total War Warhammer 3 DLC. We will be shining a light on the others in the future, so keep an eye out for more information. Do let us know who you think they could be in the comments, or head over to the CA community or Total War Discord, get involved in the discussion, and yeah, we'll see if any of you get it right. We're not going to tell you if you get it right, you're going to have to wait and find out, but I'm interested to see what you think. So thank you to Will, Vasil and Radoslav for joining us today. It's been really good to talk to you. We'll be back in the near future. Until then, see you later. Bye. Everyone wave.
Okay.